Hello. For my taste test project, I decided to do a chocolate tasting. For my taste test project, I had 10 people participate in a single blind taste test to try 4 different kinds of chocolate: 2 passion fruit dark chocolate bars, one from Oahu, Hawaii, and one from Quito, Ecuador. The other two are both 70% cacao dark chocolate bars, one from the island of Sao Tome off the west coast of Africa, and one from the Dominican Republic. Chocolate number one is the 55% cacao passion fruit from Hawaii by Manoa Chocolate, and it is grown slightly north of the equator. Chocolate 2 is from the brand Picari. It is the 60% passion fruit cacao bar from Quito, and it is grown directly on the equator. Chocolate number 3 is the first of the two 70% cacao bars from Sao Tome, again grown directly on the equator. And lastly, chocolate number 4 is from the Dominican Republic, slightly north of the equator, and the brand is Caoca. A little bit of background on the chocolates I used. All 4 bars are fair trade small batch bars that claim to be from bean to bar, and they're all made similarly in regards to sourcing the beans from local farmers or directly from their own farms. The websites for each of the chocolate bar companies provides ample information about their farming practices and their chocolate making process. They're very transparent about how they produce their chocolate and that they are 100% slave trade free. One of the companies even has a YouTube channel that shows videos of their chocolate making process and welcomes people to come tour their farm and factory. That is actually 2 of the brands, Manoa and Caoca. In regards to how I chose my test samples, I chose them because they're all very similar in cacao content and in the process of how they're made. I really wanted to focus on what the difference would be from each region since they all come from a different country. Um, as far as process goes, like I said, it's very similar. So, drying and fermentation is pretty streamlined. Roasting is where things get a little bit more specific to each company and to each bar, depending on what type of beans are used and what the desired flavor profile the chocolatier is looking to achieve. Then for processing, things get pretty streamlined again as far as winnowing, cracking the beans, removing the shells, refining, grinding the cacao nibs, and conching. And then variation comes back in when adding flavors, and lastly, tempering and molding the chocolate into bars. Each chocolate has its own unique flavors due to the different kinds of beans grown in each region, the altitude the beans are grown at, and the location of the farms in regards to the soil, temperature, humidity. The closeness to the equator affects the fat content of the individual beans, and the altitude affects acidity levels, which determine the bitterness or sweetness of the chocolate. Because I chose all dark chocolate bars, there is less sugar added and no dairy products used during production. A little bit about each chocolate. Chocolate number 1, the Hawaiian chocolate, uses Criollo beans, Forastero, and Nacional. Um, Chocolate number 2, Picari from Quito, uses Nacional beans. Chocolate number 3 from Letterpress Sao Tome uses Amelinado or Forastero beans. And lastly, chocolate number 4 from Caoca in the Dominican Republic uses Hispaniola or Trinitario. And then a couple of things to note for Caoca, the grower notes using more cacao mass with minimal addition of cacao butter and no lecithin or vanilla added during the processing. And then the first chocolate from Hawaii is actually grown in volcanic fields on the southeastern side of the island, which is going to affect the overall acidity and bitterness of the chocolate. These are the results of my taste test. So the strongest aroma was number one, the passion fruit chocolate from Hawaii, and the least strongest aroma was the 70% cacao from Sao Tome. Um, the hardest snap was the chocolate from Sao Tome, and the weakest snap was the chocolate from Hawaii. Uh, the melting point, the fastest melting point was the chocolate from Sao Tome, and the lowest melting point was the chocolate from Hawaii, but all pretty similar overall. I noticed with pretty much all of my results, they were very close. Um, except for texture. Uh, for texture, the smoothest was the chocolate from Hawaii, and the grittiest was actually the passion fruit chocolate from Ecuador. Sweetest was the passion fruit chocolate from Ecuador, and least sweet was actually a tie for Sao Tome and Brazil. Ecuador. Strongest flavor went to the chocolate from Sao Tome, the 70% cacao. But again, pretty neck and neck. And then overall favorite was the passion fruit dark chocolate from Hawaii. And the least favorite was the passion fruit from Ecuador. So I think overall, probably that grittiness contributed to people not really liking that chocolate. But that Sao Tome chocolate was a close second to the passion fruit. That's my presentation. Overall, because I picked four chocolates that were very, very similar in nature, I was hoping to see a little bit more of differentiation, especially because two of the chocolate brands were grown right on the equator. So I was hoping to see a little bit of like a higher melting point in those two. I do think I skewed my results a little bit because I had stored the chocolate in the fridge ahead of time and didn't get it to room temperature beforehand. And then I really think just people's personal preference kind of took over. So I don't think I saw as strong of results as I would have hoped for. But overall, I think it was pretty interesting and cool to see that even though these four chocolates come from four different countries, the cacao mass and percentage really plays a big factor. And then the fact that the weather in all four places is very similar, um, I think also played a factor in things being so similar. So thanks for listening.